Thank you for joining us for today's Resideo webinar session on Prestige IAQ. My name is Jamie Quanroot, and I'm a part of the Resideo sales training team. And on behalf of our team, I'd like to welcome all of you to our training session today. Before we get started with our technical presentation, I'm going to cover just a few administrative items for your reference. Each week, we give you 2 opportunities to join our team and learn about our Honeywell home branded products. Please join us every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time and Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. For a schedule of all of our future webinars, please visit resideo.com/webinars for additional information. And then we also have just recently launched a resource page on the resideo.com website where we are posting recordings of all of our webinars for your reference. And we've got several webinars out there for your review as well. And then also for those contractors who are joining us for the live session today, and you are interested in earning 1 hour of NATE continuing ed credit, there is just a few things for you to note. If you did provide your NATE ID on your registration form, we are going to submit that information to NATE for crediting for your attendance of today's live session. If you did not provide us with your NATE ID on your registration form for this live webinar, and you'd like to receive credit for attending today's session, then we do ask that you email your first and last name and your NATE ID, as well as the session you attended, to homes.university@resideo.com before the end of this week. Additionally, we will be submitting this information to NATE 1 week from the close of this session. Any requests sent outside of 1 week from this live training can't be processed. And as a reminder, we can only process requests for NATE credits when you attend the live webinar sessions. We are unable to process requests for watching a recorded version of this session. And if you would like more information about the NATE program, please visit their website at www.natex.org. And then one quick note before we begin the technical presentation today: all of our attendees are muted. However, if at any point during the technical presentation you'd like to ask a question, please use the Q&A feature that is found in your Zoom controls. We have been getting a lot of great questions during our webinar series, and while we are reserving the last 15 minutes to answer questions at the end of today's session, we do want to make sure that we are answering all the questions that come in from all of you who are attending. If for some reason we do not answer your question live today, be sure to enter your question into the Q&A feature, and we will have your Resideo sales rep follow up with further information. Now we're going to turn things over to Sean Sullivan, who is one of our Resideo contractor development specialists who serves our Pennsylvania market. Sean is one of our Prestige IAQ experts, and we're going to turn things over to him to kick off today's training. Thanks so much for being with us today, Sean.
Thank you, Jamie. And hello, everybody. My name is Sean Sullivan, and today we'll be talking about the Prestige IAQ control. Today we have some tough times around us due to the global coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. It's a health emergency. It's changing the context in which we are doing business. We know the situation is unprecedented, and you may face uncertainties within your own businesses. A lot of face-to-face meetings have been canceled, if not postponed, and a lot of individuals are working from home. So indoor air quality is definitely an important thing to focus on, not only at this time, but around all times a year. We're here to help make you as successful as possible by providing you accurate information about this virus and our solutions, so you can make responsible and truthful recommendations to your homeowners who are reaching out to you and asking for solutions. When it comes to indoor air quality, Resideo has it all. You can look at this graphic in front of you. We have indoor air quality broken down into 4 different pillars. So the first one on the top left would be humidification control, and that would be for dehumidifiers or humidifiers for humidification season. We also have ventilation, which will bring in fresh outside air to properly, ventilate your home with fresh outside air and eliminate stale air. The bottom right, we have air purification, which is our UV light portfolio. And on the top right, we have air filtration. That's going to include media air cleaners and as well as electronic air cleaners. So those are our 4 pillars in IAQ, and in the center we have the controls that tie it all together. So on the left you'll see the T10 remote thermostat with a remote sensing element, and then on the right, which is our topic today, is our Prestige IAQ control. So there's the Prestige IAQ. That is a 2-part thermostat. What that means is the user interface shown on the left with the blue screen is going to be mounted in the home. And then behind to the right in the center there is the equipment interface module. That device allows you to attach a lot more accessories to it, whether it be inputs or outputs, and control more pieces of equipment. And we can also do wireless or hardwired accessories, which we'll get into at the later slides. So Prestige IAQ, this is a 2-part thermostat. So you can see the user interface at the top. It does require 24-volt power. So you can just utilize 2 wires that's in the wall, and then it's going to be R and C for power. And then all the other communications is done wirelessly. So out of the 2 wires in the wall, we can do either residential or light commercial applications. This system can control up to 4 heat, 2 cool systems with the heat pump and or dual fuel applications. It can control 3 heat and 2 cool conventional systems. You can even go up to 4-stage of cooling if the thermostat's set to commercial application. The device not only controls temperature, but it also controls your indoor air quality devices. We can connect up to 3 different IAQ devices to this device, and they include humidification, dehumidification, and ventilation. With the thermostat at the user interface, we can get diagnostics, and we'll talk about the range of the different situations that would cause an error to occur in regards to equipment performance. We can also do dry contact alerts and performance logs. So the main takeaway here, it's a 2-wire thermostat, and out of just 2 wires in the wall, we were able to communicate and control all of these devices. So how do we do that? That's all done by RedLINK. So if you can look at the illustration on the right, all the communication is done wirelessly. What is a proprietary system that Resideo has created. It's proven, it was evolved from our security systems that use wireless protocols. It's strictly for the HVAC industry, and it's proprietary, and it works on an FM bandwidth. So it operates at about a 900 megahertz frequency. It also utilizes 50 widely dispersed frequencies to limit interference with other wireless technologies. This key takeaway here on this slide is that RedLINK is a really robust system. It can go through different construction materials such as wood, drywall, concrete, and it really allows you to offer a fully integrated system with minimal wires in the wall. The Prestige IAQ is sold as a kit, so you often refer to it as a Prestige IAQ kit. And if you look at the nomenclature of our thermostats, if you see a Y in the beginning of the part number, that means it's a kit. It's going to have more than one product in the box. The basic kit is the YTHX9421R5085. And that kit will include what's shown here to the right, the Prestige IAQ head, an equipment interface module, and 2 duct sensors. And those duct sensors are to be utilized for return and supply air temperature sensing. They are not required. However, they're a great addition to the system and also help out on diagnostics. Below, we have that same part number. However, the last 4 digits are 5101. And what that does is includes that same kit, but also adds in a wireless outdoor sensor. The key takeaway here is that you can use that outdoor sensor for balance point for heat pumps. So if you have dual fuel systems, you can turn off your heat pump off of a balance point and then bring on your fossil fuel backup. Or if you really want to just delight the consumer and be able to see outdoor humidity and temperature conditions on the thermostat, you can utilize this wireless outdoor sensor. We also have 2 other IAQ kits. The same part number applies, however, the last 4 digits are 5127. That is the standard kit, which is a Prestige IAQ, EIM, the 2 duct sensors, and it in addition also includes a gateway. We'll talk about what the RedLINK Internet Gateway does, but basically RedLINK will work within a home if you have power at both ends of the system. So what I mean by that, as long as the thermostat has power applied to it and our equipment interface module has power, RedLINK's going to work. It doesn't need the internet to work. It's going to communicate from peer to peer, regardless of if we have internet in the residence. If we want to be able to access the system remotely by a phone, we would add the gateway. And that gateway can connect up to 4 different thermostats to the internet. It'll get mounted right at your consumers or homeowners internet router, and it plugs in via Ethernet. So look at the gateway as a bridge of, or a translator from accepting RedLINK and converting it into internet protocol so we could see it remotely. And there's an example of what our app looks like today. The last kit, which is our largest kit, includes all of these items: the thermostat, the equipment interface module, the gateway, the wireless outdoor sensor, and a wireless indoor sensor, in addition to the 2 duct sensors that come standard. What's really nice about the Prestige IAQ, above that it can do all these applications and control up to 4 heat, 2 cool, and 3 IAQ devices, is that the homeowner can adjust the thermostat's color scheme, whether it be the background and or the font color, to blend into their wall, or they can change it if they want it to stand out and pop off the wall and be a main centerpiece. So all the color themes can be changed, and the standard right there is shown with the default being blue with a white font. Another thing that's great that the screen is fully color is that you can actually upload your company logo and put your contact information in. We'll talk about that later today. But it also does delta T alerts. What I mean by delta T is difference in temperature. So if you were to wire in those supply and return sensors, it's not only going to monitor them, but it's also going to track the equipment's performance. If we were to see something go astray in the difference in temperature, maybe your coil's starting to freeze up, it will let the consumer know that, and it'll show that your cooling system needs service, or if it's in heating, it'd be your heating system on that orange block on the left. And then they can press for more information and get your dealer contact information and know exactly who to call. So it really creates customers for life. Different delta T alerts and diagnostics. Here's are some prime examples of things that the Prestige IAQ can identify earlier before you have a major problem. So if you have your restriction of airflow or low on refrigerant, you're going to have different delta T on your air conditioning season than you would if your system was operating at peak performance. You know, if your evaporator is starting to ice up, we can alert the homeowner and hence alert you. And then if you have bad igniters or sequences where maybe your system's not running to performance and you're intermittent, we'll also notify you of the delta T alerts and diagnostics that way. So it really ensures proper maintenance is done at the correct time and extending equipment life. There's also performance logs. This really comes in handy when you have a system that you're doing maintenance on, or maybe it's a demand call, and you want to go back into history of how the system's been operating over time. There's 4 different ways we can look at this. So the Prestige IAQ is going to record the operation, and that's going to be your min and max delta T, so the difference in between return and supply temp, as well as those individually, your indoor temperature and humidity conditions, as well as outdoor temperature and humidity, and then lastly, your runtime. How long has your heating and cooling systems been running per stage to actually maintain the set point your homeowners are looking for? This information is recorded in 4 different options. So if you go hourly, you're going to get 8 days worth of information because we're pinging and saving that more frequently. We can go daily, so it'll be once a day, and we'll get 15 days of recorded history that way, and it'll overwrite itself as we go past the 15 days. And then we can do weekly, which will give us up to about 2 months or 8 weeks, and lastly, monthly. That'll save up to 25 months, so over 2 years of data within the thermostat on a monthly basis. Great tool to come back when you're doing tune-ups. And again, if you have a demand call that maybe the system's operating fine when you get there, but you want to go back and see how it's been trending, you can certainly refer back to this. In addition to the performance logs, we have alerts logs. So this Prestige IAQ will capture the last or most recent 25 alerts. So it saves time for the technician. So you can go right in the right direction, go into the installer setup, dial that, get back into the options, into data logs, and then alerts logs, and you'll see it's time stamped on any alerts that had come up. It'll time stamp the date and the time of when that actually occurred. And lastly, in regards to the logs, we also have a user interactions log. This is really helpful because it'll tell you when there's indoor air quality changes, when maintenance reminders have came up. Whenever a homeowner has made a temperature or humidity setting change, you'll be able to see how that happened, whether it be they changed it at the thermostat or through their phone. And then also system fan changes, any alerts that came up, and if somebody were to change the date and time in the thermostat. So again, a tool that you can come back and see what the thermostat has been doing, who's been interacting with it, and at what times. So the Prestige IAQ is a color touchscreen thermostat. You can upload your contractor information. So not only can you do your name, phone number, email address, and website, you can also put in your full color logo of your company. That's done via a USB. So you can go to the website shown here and we'll share with you in a follow-up email. You'll save this setup onto a USB stick. And that setup can include your contractor logo, contact information, as well as Prestige IAQ typical thermostat setups. So if you're going through a lot of 2 heat, 2 cool, or 2 heat, 1 cool systems, you can save those common setups on a thumb drive, plug it into the bottom of the thermostat, and quickly upload the configuration. We also have universal inputs. So again, we do ship the thermostats with a supply and return temperature sensor, and those would wire into one of the 4 sensor inputs. So each sensor input has 2 terminals, and they're labeled S1 through S4. We can have up to 4 wired sensors, and we can also utilize them for remote setback or dry contact alerts. So the wired sensors would include if you had a remote indoor air temperature sensor or a hardwired outdoor sensor, we can utilize the S terminals for that, or we can do return air temp or discharge air temp. And again, those are all optional, but great pieces to gain more information about your system. We also have dry contact alerts, so you can hook up a differential pressure switch across your filter, program it as such, and it will notify the homeowner to contact you that it's time to change the filter because we've had too much of a pressure drop. Water leak alerts, which is great. We often have contractors that have systems where the water heater is right next to the furnace. So they'll put a dry contact water leak detector underneath. When it senses water, it lets the Prestige IAQ know, and it also lets the homeowner know. Full drain pan alerts are great. We also have a humidifier shutdown. So if you have a drain pan underneath your bypass or steam or fan powered humidifier and it senses a leak, it'll turn off the output going to the water valve on your humidifier and notify the homeowner. Another key takeaway is that you can do a whole system shutdown. So if you have safeties that you typically break R or the power signal, you can actually wire it right into an S terminal. If we see contact closure, whether it be, you can set it up for normally open or normally closed, it will actually turn off all outputs to the system and notify the homeowner that you need to call for service. Here's a diagram on the bottom of our equipment interface module. So if you're able to pull the lid off of that and take a look at the bottom, we have 2 S terminals on the bottom right, as well as 2 on the bottom left. You can wire in the dry contact inputs. You can have one just wired into like S2 as it's shown there. However, if we want to do multiple dry contact devices on a single circuit, you just wire them in parallel. If any of those devices were to have a contact closure, we'll notify the homeowner at the thermostat, and then they'll in turn call you for service. Here's an example of the Prestige IAQ with full system integration. So what I mean by that, that equipment can be up to a 4 heat 2 cool staging of equipment. We can also control that dehumidifier on the bottom left, a ventilator, as well as a humidifier, and that can depend on, you can change that out to that's a bypass shown, but you can change it to a fan or steam model. You can also have wireless sensors attached, which we'll talk about later in today's presentation. However, you can have a wireless outdoor air sensor, which is shown in the top left of the screen, a vent boost, which would bring on your ventilator for an additional time within an hour, portable comfort controller, wireless averaging sensor, vent fan filter boost sensor, as well as a gateway to get online. So keep in mind, there's a lot of things going on in regards to how much equipment we can control with this thermostat, and all we need is 2 wires in the wall, shown as red and blue, right connected to the Prestige user interface head. In addition to the 4 sensor inputs, we also have 3 universal outputs. So on the Prestige IAQ, on the EIM, you do have your standard R, Y, W, G, O terminals. In addition, we have 3 universal dry contacts, and they're labeled U1, U2, and U3. There's 2 terminals per U contact, and what they can control is any combination. So you can have a humidification device, such as a humidifier, a dehumidification device, a ventilation device, or it can be utilized as multiple stages for cooling or heating. You can also wire it into geothermal radiant heat. So those are dry contacts, and we'll go through a setup of how that would look in regards to setting up the IAQ devices and additional stages. The EIM has designated terminals for your conventional heat stage 3, as well as backup heat stages 2 for heat pumps. So at this time, I'd like to open up our simulator and actually go through what it will look like when you are programming a Prestige IAQ. So this is our simulator for the Prestige IAQ demo. It is available on our website. When you open up the Prestige and put power to it, the first thing it's going to ask you is what language you want to set, whether it be English, French, or Spanish. The thing here is it's plain language setup. And what I mean by that is I can hit English, and it'll ask me what kind of application I have. Is it residential or commercial? So I can switch it just by clicking with my finger. It is a touchscreen display, and then I move on. So the book, the installation manual it does come with, can be referred to when looking at these installer setup units with ISU codes. However, it does prompt you right on the screen, so you can utilize the book for reference, but setting up the Prestige is done right on the device itself. I can rename the Prestige device. I'm going to keep it at Thermostat, but if I wanted to rename it, I could type in some unique name. I can tell it's either a zoned or non-zoned system. For today, it's going to be a non-zoned system, just a standard air conditioner and heater right for a residence. And what it's telling me now is press the connect button on my interface module. And then when I press that for 1 second, it's going to start pulsing like a heartbeat. That means it's in an enrollment mode, and it's looking to pair with my thermostat. So we'll imagine that we press that button, we hit next, and device has been connected. From here, I can view connected devices, which I have my EIM is now talking to my thermostat. I hit next, I can name the EIM. We'll leave that at EIM. And do I have other RedLINK accessories to connect? If I had a wireless outdoor sensor or indoor sensor and I wanted to connect to it, I'd say yes. It would give me a 15-minute countdown bar, and it would give me that adequate amount of time to go press connect on those accessories as well. For demonstration purposes, we'll say no. Now we're going to get into the programming of the thermostat. So we can make this stat non-programmable. That means we don't have a schedule. We just set the thermostat set point and we're done. Or we can put it in a program and save us money when we're not home or when we're going to bed. Fahrenheit or Celsius, we'll leave it Fahrenheit. Do we have an outdoor air sensor? I will say yes. And then what kind of equipment you have. So again, just for demonstration purposes, we're going to set this up as dual fuel. We'll say we have a heat pump. It's an air-to-air heat pump, okay? Our reversing valve, do we energize it in O for cooling or B for heat? And typically, oftentimes we'll see O for cooling. We'll leave that at O. And then we can ramp this up to 2 stages compressor as well as 2 stages of backup heat. So if we have a heat pump, that's 4 heat and 2 cool. Our backup, we're going to say that it's high efficiency gas, and we have the options to go with oil, forced air, hot water, fan coil. And keep in mind, if you have any questions along the way, all you need to do is hit this help button, and it goes in great detail in regards to what it's asking you to currently set up. That help button is available on all of our setups, and it's just a yellow button there. Once you're done, you just hit OK, and it brings you back to what you're setting up. So we'll have 2 stages of high efficiency gas backup heat. And then the thermostat's going to control the backup heat. The thermostat's going to act as our fossil fuel kit. Changeover, that's between our set points, heating and cooling mode. We're going to leave that at manual, so the homeowner will have to, in the shoulder season, change it from cooling to heating and then heating to cooling based on what mode we're going into. And I can do basic or advanced options. Advanced just gives you some more fine tuning of things. For demonstration purposes, we're going to stick with the basic. Staging control, so backup heat differentials, backup heat upstage timers, how long do we have to be calling for the current state of heat before we are allowed to bring in backup heat. Compressor lockout. So this again is where our balance point comes in. We do have an outdoor sensor. So I want my heat pump to turn off at 40 degrees, which is adjustable. And my backup heat lockout, I can turn that off if the temperature is above 60. I don't want that backup heat to run. So that's adjustable as well. Minimum compressor off time, I like to keep that at 5 minutes, but it's up to your discretion. That will keep the compressor from banging on and off and potentially causing damage to the compressor. Extended fan run times, whether cooling or heating mode, and your scheduling periods per day. Adaptive intelligent recovery, we can turn that on or off. If we leave it on, what it will do is actually get to our scheduled set point at the scheduled time. So basically it learns the system and it knows the recovery times it can come on early. So we're actually at set point when we want to be. Minimum cooling and heating set points, we can do lockouts on that. A lockout of the screen between unlocked, partial, or fully. And then here's our wired sensors. So we're gonna go ahead and say we have a return air sensor and a discharge air temperature sensor, and we'll hit next. This is key. Where is our return sensor wired? So what input? And again, we have 4 S inputs. We're gonna say S1 is our return temperature sensor. And is it a 10K or 20K thermistor? We ship from the factory 10K, so that's what we'll default it to and keep it at. However, if you had a aftermarket unit that you're connecting to, you can connect it to 20K if that's what the thermistor is. Supply temperature, discharge, where's that wired to? See how S1 is no longer there because that's where a return sensor is located. So we'll click S2 and we'll hit next. Again, that's going to be 10K. We could do low coil temperature limits. So if the coil starts getting below 40 degrees or 35, starting to ice up, we want to turn off the compressor and continuously run the fan to thaw that out, we can do so. And then here's our dry contact alerts. So we can do system shutdown alert, and we could even do a custom alert and do any dry contact and wire it into an S terminal. So we'll leave it at system shutdown, and we have 2 options left. We'll wire that to S3, and it's a normally open switch, or we can do normally closed. So if it's a safety circuit like a condensate switch, like an easy trap that's normally closed, or hockey puck, we can wire that. Anytime it opens, it's going to turn off all my system outputs. Now we get into the indoor air quality. So filter type. This is our 4 pillars of IAQ. We're going to say we have a media air cleaner. We have 1 filter. And we're going to put a replacement reminder to let us know that we want to replace this filter every 6 months. That will come up and let the homeowner know time to replace your filter. Humidifier type, steam, bypass, or fan. So we can choose any of those. I'll say steam. And here's where it's going to ask us, are we wiring it into U1, U2, or U3 dry contact? And for this application, let's say we do U1. Window protection, if it gets really cold outside, based off of what our outdoor air sensor is reading, do we want to lower the humidification set point inside the house so we don't frost or condense on the windows? So we can turn that on. System modes, I can allow the humidification to run during heating, cooling, or off. If you wanted to allow it to run during cooling, you do have to put in a discharge air temperature sensor. And humidification control. So does my fan, is it being controlled by the humidifier or by the thermostat? When you go with a Prestige IAQ, it does save you labor because the logic is built into the thermostat that if I call for humidity, I can bring my fan on right from the thermostat as well. I don't have to physically wire in a hard interlock for the fan. Clean tank water filter replacement, we'll do that on an annual basis. So if I have a cylinder needs to be swapped out, it'll let me know that. Or if I had a bypass or fan model, it'll be a pad. And then my dehumidification equipment. So I can do multiple options. AC with low speed, AC with high speed, as well as a whole house dehumidifier. Please keep in mind, if we set this thermostat up in the beginning to be commercial rather than residential, we would have the option to do reheat, which you'll often find in rooftop units. We'll put a whole house dehumidifier on this system. We'll wire that into U2 and allow it to run in the cooler off mode. And I'm going to say that the thermostat also controls the fan. So when I bring on my dehumidifier, I want my blower to come on too. Again, I don't need to wire in a hardwired interlock, and this will save me on labor. Dehumidifier lockouts, I can allow it to run in addition when the cooling's running, or not allow it to run when cooling's running. So you have the option there. Away mode, so if we were to leave the home and we need to dehumidify, do we want to allow it to come on even though we're set back? And if I hit allowed, it gives me some options on away mode. So the fan control could be auto, on, or circulate. And again, any questions, just refer to the help menu there. And my away settings. So what's my setback going to be on dehumidification if I'm not home? Filter replacement reminder. We can do that 6, 9, 12 months, whatever you want. And there's plenty of options in between. We'll set it at 12 months. And then lastly, on our 4 pillars, we have a ERV, HRV ventilator. I could do passive fan only, or if I had a fresh outside air damper. So we'll go with ERV, wired to dry contact U3. And we'll do ASHRAE. So we can do that, or percentage of on time. And the thermostat controls the fan. Again, when I call for ERV, the blower will come on by the thermostat. How many bedrooms, how many square foot do I have in the home? And my ERV is 150 CFM, so it already tells you here, we're going to ventilate and bring on this device 29% of an hour to maintain ASHRAE 62.2 code. We can do lockouts, and if we do lockouts, it's really cold outside. Maybe we don't want to bring in outside air. If it's really hot outside, same deal. And if it's really humid outside, okay, and that's going to be based off dew point. That will lock out the ERV from bringing in fresh outside air. We can lock out the ventilation on humidification or dehumidification calls and ventilate on high indoor humidity. So if we're got a lot of humidity in the home, the ventilator can come on and try to dry out that home. Reminders on cleaning the core, cleaning the filter, and then lastly, the UV lights. So we'll say that we have 1, and we'll do a bulb replacement every 12 months. So that is the setup of the thermostat and the IAQ options. If we were to hit done here, it will save and go back to the home screen, at which the homeowner would see the room temp and set points. So at this point, we will resume our PowerPoint and go back into our slideshow. And that concludes our IAQ configuration simulation. What's great about doing a Prestige IAQ with humidity control, you can do a wireless or wired outdoor temperature sensor for that window protection. We can control either a steam, fan, or bypass humidifier, which is shown here. And it can also do different modes of humidification, equipment running. So can we run humidification on demand, or do we need to bring the fan on, or will the thermostat do that for us? We can also say that we only want to run a humidifier when the heat call is running. We could do that. If it's a bypass or fan powered, we'll get more evaporation that way. Or if we have a device we want to humidify independently. So let's say the heat's not running. Let's say we have a steam humidifier, or maybe even a fan powered. We need humidity in the space. We'll bring on the humidifier and the blower, and we don't need the heat to be running at that time. And lastly, we can also force a fan on when you're actually calling for humidification control. So the main thing here is if you have a humidifier, you can control that from the thermostat, and you don't need any additional wires in the wall to do so. So the homeowner can see current temperature as well as humidity and adjust the set points accordingly. You can also get the reminders of changing the cylinder if you're a steam unit, or a pad on an evaporative style, and that's adjustable. And then dehumidification, there's all the options. We can even overcool as well, or do reheat if it's commercial. So overcooling will allow the air conditioning to run up to 3 degrees beyond set point to dry some moisture out of the air. We can also, which is really unique with the Prestige IAQ, is you can have the thermostat controlling the humidity by the internal humidity sensor. And we can have a dehumidifier in a basement or crawl space and do a wireless RedLINK indoor air sensor and give it a specific job to just control the dehumidifier based off the humidity that's being read at the basement or crawl space. And ventilation, we have ASHRAE, percentage on time, and we can also turn a system on. So force the fan on while you're ventilating, which will not require you to do a hardwire fan interlock, which is more labor and more cost per material. Ventilation control, we do have the lockouts, and we went through that in the simulator setup. We do have ventilation boost, so I can hit 20, 40, or 60 on that device, and it'll give me an additional ventilation boost. So it'll run my blower and ERV for an additional 20, 40, or 60 minutes of that hour. So if I'm doing some cooking and I wanted to ventilate the air, I could just press that button. And again, that device is wireless. Here's some screenshots of what it would look like when I'm setting my hum and dehumidification set points, as well as my ventilation control. And here's additional IAQ reminders. We have a total of 9 of them, in which we went through with your air filter changeout reminders, your pad or your cylinder if you have a steam unit, dehumidifier filter, the ERV, we have the filter and core reminders, and the list goes on from there. And we have RedLINK accessories. So not only are we doing the equipment control via hardwired at the EIM, but we can also utilize an equipment remote module. This device is utilized if you don't have enough wires to your outdoor unit. Let's say the line set's buried under concrete or in the middle of a condo, and I need more wires or conductors outside. I mount that outdoors next to the condensing unit's disconnect, and my thermostat will communicate wireless to it to control an outdoor unit. I also have RedLINK Internet Gateway, the top right. That's going to get us online, get us phone control, so I can look at my device remotely. A RedLINK Indoor Sensor, which is wireless, that I can connect up to 6 those to a thermostat. Vent and filter boost, as well as your entry-exit remote, the wireless outdoor sensor, and a portable comfort control, and a THM 4000, which extends your range. The ERM will control your outdoor pieces of equipment remotely if you don't have enough wires in the wall. And that's how it would work. The thermostat will talk wireless right to those devices. Outside air sensor, you can connect up to 16 thermostats to this outside air sensor. So it's completely wireless, 2 batteries, 2 screws. I press connect, and now I'm talking to up to 16 thermostats providing current temperature and humidity sensors. Great thing about this device is you can mount it on the north wall in the shade very easily. You don't have to fish a wire through the home to get there. And it lasts about 5 years on the batteries we supply, and you can swap them out with lithium batteries when it's time to do so. Wireless indoor sensors, up to 6 of them. No Ohm's law applies. You can average a home up, if you have a 2-story home, 2nd floor and 1st floor, just by putting 2 batteries, 2 screws in, mount it to the wall, press connect, and now I can actually see the different temperatures throughout the home. And the portable comfort control. So this device, if you're anywhere within your home and you're not at your thermostat, you can adjust the set point and actually tell the thermostat system to control to the sensor of where you're at. So if you're on the couch and the temperature is different, a little there, being that you're next to the window, maybe you're feeling a little more heat, you can control to that and override what the thermostat's reading. Wireless entry exit remote, so home, away, and vacation, or occupied, unoccupied, holiday is the different faceplate for commercial. You press that and it'll change your thermostat set points to save you money. And then the vent filter boost, so you have 20, 40, and 60 minutes. That'll bring on your ventilator for an additional amount of the time in an hour, and up to 6 of those be controlled per thermostat. And we also have a tool to utilize in regards to indoor air quality, presenting this information to your homeowners. So we do have an air advice tool, an AIRCYCLE program, that what the AIRCYCLE monitor does is you plug it in, it monitors the conditions of the home, and it provides a report within 30 minutes to you that you can share to the homeowner, and it'll go over what the current temperature, humidity, CO, CO2, particulate, and VOCs are within that home at that time. And it'll also make recommendations of what products that you should be offering to the homeowner to address any of those 6 parameters that are out of control.
Thank you, Sean. You can find information on the Prestige IAQ, including all the information on the accessory products that Sean reviewed in our training today, at the new Resideo.com website. Now we're going to cover some commonly asked questions, and we're going to have Chris Levy, who is also part of our Resideo sales team, join Sean to help answer some of those questions.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Sean, we're going to run through some common questions first. I'm going to begin with, what is the maximum distance for RedLINK thermostats to connect to the EIM or accessories?
Great question. Thanks, Chris. So the RedLINK signal is very robust. What that means, it's very strong. We can go through many different construction materials. In open air testing, we've gone up to a quarter mile with nothing in its way to connect devices from point A to point B. When you have a home or a building, you do have more building materials, including concrete or metal. They can act as barriers and diminish the signal. However, we have had much success going through these building materials and even in light commercial applications.
Awesome. Our next question is, what smart home partners can we use the Prestige IAQ thermostat with Gateway?
Today, we have a lot of smart home partners, and it seems like it's been growing exponentially. So for more information to make sure that your smart home device will partner with our Prestige IAQ, I'd recommend going to the forwardthinking.honeywellhome.com website /smart home partners to see a current list.
Excellent. The Prestige IAQ still requires 2 wires at the thermostat location. What if I'm adding another thermostat or relocating a thermostat to an area where I cannot run wires?
That's a great question that comes up a lot. Prestige does require 24 volts. The main reason is because it's a full color touchscreen display, so we do want to power that display. But we do have the option of going with the RedLINK Vision Pro. That is a touchscreen. However, because it's not full color and high definition, it can work off 4 AA batteries, and that'll get you about at least a year of life, if not 2 of those batteries. And that can pair directly with that same equipment interface module we discussed earlier today.
Excellent. Also, what happens when there is a system power outage or when the batteries need to be replaced in one of the accessories?
That's a great question. When power goes out and your devices lose power at them, and then when power is reapplied, they look for the other peer-to-peer. So they automatically reconnect. There's nothing that the homeowner or the technician needs to do to reconnect these devices. And, on your batteries, your outdoor sensor, for instance, if you go beyond the 5 years of battery life and you need to swap out those batteries, it should automatically reconnect to the thermostat.
Excellent. We're going to go now to our live questions, or questions that were asked during the webinar. And our first one that I'm going to give to you, Sean, is, why does the face of the stat change colors at 2 a.m. every day? I have one, and it changes for like 30 seconds, and then it changes back.
That is a great question. As we go into the time at 2 a.m. And oftentimes you don't catch it because it's late at night, and we do that on purpose. So the screen, as you can see on the Prestige on the display here on our PowerPoint, it's got that blue background, or it could be any color your homeowner chooses, but we don't want those pixels to get burned into the display. So at 2 a.m., and we do that time because it's a time where most of us are sleeping and not interacting with the thermostat, we invert those colors and then bring them back so that way we don't have burn-in of the display.
Terrific answer. If I could add, it's kind of funny. Usually people don't recognize that as an issue until they're up at that time for a strange reason. Or sometimes they get AM and PM mixed up when they set the time on the thermostat.
Correct. Yep, I've seen that too. Here's a question for you, Chris. Is there a capability to use Wi-Fi to control dual fuel without an outdoor sensor?
There is not. On the Prestige IAQ, the Prestige IAQ requires the use of either a wired outdoor sensor or the wireless outdoor sensor only.
Great, and I just want to add, if you go with a Wi-Fi option, such as the Vision Pro 8000, that's capable of doing dual fuel with a Wi-Fi. But on the RedLINK platform, as Chris mentioned, you need to have a wired or wireless outdoor sensor.
Excellent. Our next question is, will the Prestige ever be accessible through the Honeywell Home app?
So at this point, Honeywell Home is the app that we utilize for a lot of our T6 Wi-Fi, our T10, the Lyric Round. We have recently integrated our Total Connect Comfort products that are Wi-Fi, and we have plans to integrate those that communicate via the gateway. So at this point, it's on a separate app, but our plan is to migrate those together.
And we've already begun the migration process of the Wi-Fi thermostats that belong to the TCC app. Those are already right now being offered to move over to the Honeywell Home app. So it is a work in process. The RedLINK products using the gateway will be offered that option in the months to come.
Thanks, Chris. Here's a good question. So we talked about the Prestige IAQ and how it's only requires 2 wires in the wall. This question comes in, would it be a good idea for a dealer to install this device knowing that they can go back in the future and install IAQ products down the road with minimal labor in regards to pulling wire?
Yeah, it's actually funny. I've had dealers tell me that they've standardized on Prestige, for example, for their heat pump applications, and they would offer indoor air quality options, and sometimes homeowners take them, sometimes they don't, or maybe they'll ask for one device and not another. But then after having the thermostat installed for a little while, they recognize that they actually do have a low humidity issue in the wintertime. So then it'll generate an inquiry to potentially sell them a humidifier. And then the great part is the control's already in place, so installation is much easier.
Perfect. And here's another one for you, Chris. Is there a retail version of the Prestige, or is this a trade-only product?
Yeah, so Prestige IAQ is only offered through trade, and there is a Wi-Fi thermostat offered through retail and even through the trade called the Smart Wi-Fi, color Wi-Fi. It's the same screen interface, but it is a standard stat. If you need a Prestige IAQ with the capability of using only 2 wires and all the IAQ control down in your equipment space, that is only available through trade in a Prestige IAQ product.
Perfect.
The question here was asked, would all those alerts be the same alert as in service system?
No, so they do come up with unique alerts. If you do create a system shutdown, that will, and let's say you have multiple safeties wired in series, whether it be a hockey puck wet switch, a condensate pump switch, and an easy trap. Being that they are wired in series, the system knows there's an issue, but wouldn't be able to determine which one, and it will shut down. The whole system's just saying system shutdown. But if you did have an issue with your Delta T, your filter being plugged up, and you'd have a differential pressure switch, it will come up with a unique explanation of what that is actually happening with your system.
There was another question that came through that I'll take the answer to. A customer has one of our very first Prestige thermostats, and that was going back to, let's say, 2008, 2009. Now the customer wants to upgrade to the new Prestige IAQ model. Can they do that? And of course they can. Obviously, we're going to install a brand new thermostat with an equipment interface module. But if that original Prestige was using any accessories, then maybe the question is more, can we use those accessories with the new stat? And the answer to that is yes, you can. If you had accessories on an existing RedLINK thermostat and now that stat's being replaced, you need to clear that accessory from having a connection to the old stat and then reconnect it to the new thermostat being installed.
Great, thanks, Chris. That's very detailed. Another question here, how do we get into the installer settings? And the IAQ simulator will show this. We did not show how to do that in regards to if the system had already been set up. But what you would do is on the top right from the home screen, there's a button that says menu, and then at the very bottom is installer options. And it does ask you for a 4-digit date code, which is our passcode to get into the thermostat. That way your homeowner's not going in and changing things. That date code can be found on the back of the thermostat itself. However, we suggest not pulling it off the wall because you'll disrupt power. you can go into that same menu screen and go into dealer information or the bottom of equipment status, and it'll tell you the code.
Excellent. I lost my place here. Pardon me for a second. The next question has to do with window freeze protection. When using the window freeze option, does it affect the inside air temperature settings or function?
If you don't mind taking that one, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. Window freeze protection is basically just a calculation of how much water the windows or condensation humidity can be put into the air before condensation starts to appear on your windows. And it's based on an outdoor temperature calculation and an indoor temperature calculation. So it doesn't affect the inside air temp settings. You would operate your system just as normal. Perfect.
Here's a great question in regards to the gateway that I would like to answer. So this contractor sounds like he's had some Wi-Fi thermostats in the past connected to the internet, and then the homeowner changes their internet service provider or they change out their router. What do we recommend to do for the gateway when the homeowner changes these service providers? Do they need to create a new account? And here's the real beauty of the gateway. So Wi-Fi routers have gotten a lot better over the years and gotten a lot more robust. RedLINK doesn't require a Wi-Fi signal, so we're actually creating our own signal. So when you have longer distances, maybe a larger home, or maybe it's a commercial building, we will tend to go to RedLINK because we don't have any intermittent connections. And again, when you change your router or your service provider, you're not impacted by having to create new accounts or doing any password changes because your gateway is physically plugged into that router. So nothing really changes.
Awesome. Here we have a question asking about potential future capability. Will there ever be a RedLINK air quality sensor that will help the registering of CO2 for ventilation, or other sensors such as an air advice unit or RedLINK pressure sensors for registering TESP?
That's a great question, and I'm sure they would make for great products. I would refer that individual to please mention that to their local rep, so that way we can get that into product management for future product development.
Awesome.
Here's one here. On light commercial applications, will the Prestige enable an economizer? And the answer to that is yes. So you can either do it by occupancy or time of day, and we will be able to turn on an economizer. Oftentimes, rooftop equipment, we do have the equipment interface modules mounted right up at the equipment, and the thermostats are just on a wall in the manager's office with a remote temperature sensor.
A question here is, do we offer a more advanced webinar on Prestige IQ? And I think if there's an audience for that, we'd be happy to. Please make sure if you have an opportunity in the survey, you include any requests for different types of trainings.
Here's a question for you, Chris. Will the C7189R1004, which is our wireless indoor sensor, or RedLINK, would it work on an older version of the Prestige thermostat to average temperatures in a two-story home?
That is a terrific question that I am not 100% confident on. I am, however, confident that it'll work on all the Prestige IAQ products that are with the square display. When we get to the older Prestige products where the thermostat display or the thermostat itself is the more rectangular pillow-shaped size display, my belief is it will not, but I would like to be able to have your local rep contact you with a more precise answer following this meeting.
Great. This question actually goes into that in regards to the local rep. Can the local rep come out and train my staff in person? And the answer to that is yes. Feel free to reach out to either your local rep, and if you don't know who that is, you can call into Resideo and they'll give you the correct contact information, or your local distributor might have that. but we do offer live in-house trainings as well. Another question, Chris, is do we have a product data book on the Prestige IAQ and what it can do?
Absolutely. We have I refer to it as the Prestige IAQ Bible myself. The Prestige IAQ product data book is currently available at our forwardthinking.honeywellhome.com website.
Perfect. Here's a unique application question in regards to smart home partners. I have a customer that is looking for a T-Stat to work with their cameras. Is this compatible with Alexa or Z-Wave? Is there another Honeywell stat that will work with any of those partners?
Well, that's kind of an interesting question. I'm not exactly sure how it's working with cameras versus working on the same app or same device like your voice assistant with Alexa. All of the Resideo internet connectable thermostats are compatible with Alexa.
Perfect. Here's a statement that's a question, but I'd like to talk about. It'd be nice if you could remove one piece of synced equipment from the RedLink instead of all having to be resynced again. And you can go into the installer options on a live system if you want to remove, let's say, an outdoor air sensor or remote indoor sensor. You can either do it from the menu, installer options, and then the wireless device manager, and you can remove devices there. Or you can hold down the connect button on that accessory for 10 seconds and it will remove the device. The other thing, be mindful if you need to do a factory reset, you can just press the connect button on the EIM for over 10 seconds and it'll turn amber and reset all of the hardware.
Yeah, the exception to that is the RedLink Internet Gateway. When you have multiple thermostats connected to your RedLink Internet Gateway, if you need to remove a stat from the gateway, you actually have to wipe the gateway and remove all stats and then reconnect.
Great, thank you. I did see the follow-up come in on the chat in regards to the gateway. Great, well, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks so much, gentlemen. That concludes our Q&A session for Prestige IAQ. Please join us next week on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time and Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time as we provide 2 sessions on the subject of dehumidification. And then also for your reference, we have launched a resource page on the Resideo.com website where all recordings of our previous webinars will be available for your reference. And on the image we've got here showing we do have our indoor air quality presentation on UV air treatments is available for your reference now. And then finally, just one reminder to those contractors who did not include your NATE ID on your registration form and you would like to receive credit for today's session, please send your first name, your last name, and your NATE ID to homes.university@resideo.com within 1 week of today's live webinar, and we will go ahead and submit that credit to NATE for your benefit. And then just 2 final things to note. Once our training session ends today, you are going to be prompted to complete a survey regarding our session. Please take a few minutes to provide us with your feedback on the training you participated in today. We are looking forward to offering many additional online webinar sessions going forward, and we do want to hear your feedback, especially on topics. So as a reminder, if we did not answer your question today during our Q&A session, please go ahead and include that question in the survey, and your Resideo sales rep will follow up with additional information. And finally, you will receive an email from us in a couple of days that includes some information as a follow-up to our Prestige IAQ webinar today, along with the link to our new webinar page, which lists a schedule of our upcoming webinars. And we'll also share a link to our recorded webinar sessions in that follow-up email as well. Thank you all for joining us on today's Resideo webinar session on Prestige IAQ. Please join us next week as we discuss solving the problem of high humidity. Thank you again for attending today. Have a great day, everyone.